Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining our Theta and Crypto.com live video AMA today. My name is Tina, and I'm the General Manager of the UK at Crypto.com, and I'm delighted to host this live stream today. It's our pleasure to be joined today by Wes Levitt, Head of Strategy at Theta Labs. Wes will be responding to some of the questions submitted by both of our communities this week, and if your question was selected, for today's stream, you may have won a share of the prize pool that will be paid in Theta. I'm excited to learn more about Theta Labs, which is striving to solve a problem I think that we can all relate to. Chances are you've live streamed something, probably multiple somethings in your life, maybe a sporting event or a concert, live video gaming, or maybe you've gone live yourself on social media. Live streaming has become one of the most popular ways people consume content. According to data aggregator Inside Intelligence, the online live streaming industry has grown 99% between April 2019 and April 2020. For example, the 2019 Coachella was the live music event with the highest live viewership ever, with more than 82 million live views. So, what's the problem? Live video streaming today, as you've probably experienced from time to time, can offer some pretty poor streaming quality and often minimal upside for content creators. Today's content delivery networks lack reach, and which causes video rebuffering and high load times in many parts of the world. And live streaming becoming increasingly more popular equals skyrocketing data needs. Users demanding 4K, 8K, and higher quality streams create infrastructure bottlenecks. Currently, most content delivery networks operate via a centralized system. This centralization limits the revenue flow back to content creators and platforms, and centralized networks themselves reap most of the rewards whilst delivering low-quality streams. So I'm really excited to learn more about how Theta Labs' native blockchain, powered by its users, plans to solve some of these issues with decentralized peer-to-peer video delivery. So let's welcome Wes from Theta Labs.
Hi, Tina. Thanks for having me today.
Oh, it's great to have you. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm excited for this conversation. We have lots of questions from the community. So before we get into those, why don't you start us off with a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Theta?
Sure. Yeah, so my name is Wes Levitt. I'm head of strategy here at Theta Labs, based here in San Francisco Bay Area, where Theta is located, at least pre-pandemic. Now we're all a little distributed, but still core here. And I'm a Bay Area native myself. Yeah. I joined the Theta team about 3 years ago, or actually even more than that now, late 2017, right as we were launching Theta Network. And so what that is Theta Network is a decentralized video delivery system, as you said. Mm-hmm. The idea is that, so any of us, any local peers near you on any device can share any video they're watching with anyone else in the area over a peer-to-peer network, with Theta Network acting as the incentive mechanism to get you to share with other users. So a little backstory about why we made this. Theta TV as a video platform actually predates our Theta blockchain. And really it was about solving a problem that we had ourselves. As you alluded to, CDN video delivery costs are rising in the amount of data you need to push every year, especially once you get into high definition video. And as a startup video platform, there's actually a pretty significant amount of our expenses to try to be pushing high definition streams around the world. And so putting our heads together to figure out how to solve this, we realized that we had pockets of users around the world that a lot of concurrent users in different cities, like maybe there's many watching from Rio at the same time, or from different cities in Europe or Asia. So once we realized that these users are all pulling the same video stream to their same local area.
Like a sporting event would be a good example, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So our Theta TV, our origin was in esports streaming, and that's still a lot of our content today. And so because the different games have, might be very popular in one country versus another, the same stream, we might see a whole lot of users in Poland, for example, all watching their favorite team playing. So it made sense, rather than sending that stream 50 times to the same part of the world, to send it once and let users share that nearby with all their friends that are watching the nearby area. And so what that does for us as a video platform is it saves 50% or more of the cost of delivering that video, because you're not sending it redundantly so many times over and over. So originally that was the idea behind Theta Network, is to solve that problem. But of course, when once we had done so, we realized the other half of the value proposition of Theta, and that once users start earning crypto assets as an incentive to contribute to this network, it becomes a really powerful mechanism to get them to return to your platform to watch longer. And so what is almost more attractive than saving the money on CDN costs is realizing we have this feedback loop now where users are incentivized to watch more. They want to share with their friends, to tell them to come to the platform, because they have a stake in the success of the platform too, and they earn for every bit they watch.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, well, I'm sure we will get into a lot of detail around what you just described as we go through the questions from the communities. So let's kick off. So what is the mission and the vision of Theta? So you've kind of told us the problem you're trying to solve. What's your vision?
Yeah, so while we originally built Theta Network to solve our own problem as a video platform, we pretty quickly realized that our small but growing video platform is just a small piece of the puzzle there. And this is actually something that really any video platform can benefit from, that has a high degree of concurrent users, like a live streaming platform or even a static video that has a lot of users. So that's when we began looking to export what we built here to other video platforms as well. And for our users running Theta Edge nodes that can relay video to power other sites as well. And so you extrapolate that out, and with enough coverage around the world, there's 10,000 edge nodes around the world now, and we want to grow that to 100,000. Enough coverage, you really start having a pretty dense network that any video platform around the world can tap into. So we see it as any computer or phone or tablet or any other connected device that has excess bandwidth to share at any time can be used to basically contribute to a video platform in the area, or anything else transferring data that wants to use this peer-to-peer network to bolster their infrastructure, basically. So right now we're building out to specific platforms, but eventually we see this as something almost like a public network that can be tapped into by anyone that wants to more efficiently deliver data over this peer-to-peer network.
Okay, brilliant. So the Theta token, how does the Theta token come into this, and what's its utility?
Yeah, and there's actually two tokens on native to Theta blockchain, and they kind of work together. So I can explain both of those.
Please.
So yeah, Theta is the staking token of the protocol that you stake to run a Guardian node and contribute to block production, and also will eventually be the way you govern the protocol, basically via your stake proportional to it. And Theta Fuel, or T-Fuel for short, is basically the transactional or gas token of the protocol. So you and I are, say, watching the same stream. If we were watching this rather than holding this ourselves, and we're sharing this video with each other, every time I pull a video segment from you, I would pay you a small micropayment of T-Fuel. And that's basically like over the course of a 30-minute or hour-long stream, you would collect for all the video segments you're sharing with me and other users. So as an end user, the gas token of the protocol is what you're earning and what actually powers people to incentives to share video with each other. A little more behind the scenes is Theta, the staking and governance token of the protocol, which the end user may or may not even interact with, but sort of your more crypto native folks that are running nodes and actually understand the network are using that Theta token.
Okay, so kind of a related but side note question: can you explain the difference between an enterprise validator node versus a Guardian node, and what are the economic incentives for each? And also, is there a non-custodial delegation mechanism in Theta?
Sure. Okay. Yeah, to start with, so probably easiest to back up and talk a little bit about our consensus mechanism, which we call multi-BFT. If you're familiar with BFT consensus, similar to Cosmos Hub, from a design standpoint, it's similar to that on in the first step of the validator nodes, which are run by Theta Labs and other enterprise partners like Samsung, Binance, Gumi Cryptos, Google Cloud. And these up to 21 nodes form sort of like your first line of defense, in that they propose and produce new blocks on the network. Then after that, we have a second layer, which is our community-run Guardian nodes. Those number about 2,500 that are also all staking Theta tokens. And these finalize blocks at regular intervals. So it's sort of rather than have one or the other, where you have trade-offs either way, either having a small trusted number or a large number of nodes that may have more trouble coming to consensus. We sort of do it in two steps so that you minimize the trade-offs on both ends of that. So for a typical community member that has the minimum 1,000 Theta to stake, they'd run a Guardian node. For now, the validators, enterprise validators, are run by, as it sounds like, large enterprises that are partners and that see strategic value in running a node on Theta blockchain. So in the future, those will probably also be sort of democratized, in that some of the slots will be open to community members on a rotating basis.
Okay.
And you had one last question on that. Sorry, after all that, I forgot your last part about delegation. Yes.
Yeah.
So currently, yes, you can have non-custodial delegation. The way it's built right now, you do need to actually have a code from the node operator that's running it. So say I'm running a Guardian node, I can give you access to stake to my node, and I can give it to any number of people if I want to stake to my node, but it's not public. It's permission based on the person running the node has to allow you to delegate to them. Okay. But we are working on probably the next month or two, at least firing up a few public nodes that basically will make the access public to, so anyone can delegate to that one if they want to. Okay.
All right. So I took us a little deep a little early. Sorry about that. But it's
no problem at all.
So let's go back to a little bit of a high level introduction, and then work our way back to where we were. So how do you plan to avoid Theta powered streaming services becoming full of ads like YouTube?
Yeah. So if you think of Theta-powered services, meaning any platform that uses Theta technology as their backend streaming infrastructure, I guess the short answer is we're not. We think of it more as, we're providing a piece of their tech stack that they can benefit from, but we're not actually telling the video platform how to run their business. So Theta Network, if you plug in our SDK and add Theta to, it's basically like a hybrid model. You'll have your centralized CDN as a backup, and then you essentially try to push as much traffic as you can onto the Theta peer-to-peer network. But this is just technology we're providing to them. They still have their own business models on there, which can be anything. It could be a subscription-based model. It could be ad-based, where everything is free, but you watch ads. It could be transactional, like an Amazon Prime, where you just pay for each piece of content that you want to watch.
Right.
But we're generally not going to be influencing the way that the video platform chooses to monetize their platform. And that's kind of by design, because if we start trying to dictate that or have one size fits all, it just really limits the number of businesses and platforms that might want to use Theta. So we try to stay agnostic on that. We just say this is effectively helpful technology that can give you all these benefits. But beyond that, we understand everyone's going to have their own business models.
Okay. So how does Theta Network differ from other decentralized video platforms like PeerTube, for example?
Yeah, I think one of the key differences is that, and I'm not specifically familiar with PeerTube, but I know a lot like DTube and Library and some others that were purely peer-to-peer. And while we do have our Theta Edge Node product that does operate that way, generally speaking, when different video platforms are interested in Theta, what they want to do is take the Theta peer-to-peer streaming protocol and add it to their existing technology. And I'll try not to go too much into the weeds on that, but basically, imagine you're a YouTube and you're considering adding Theta to your stack. You're not going to go 100% peer-to-peer because there's still times where, say, if there's not enough peers in the area to watch a video, there's no one to pull the stream from. So you certainly can't have your users start buffering or the video drop out. Like at this day and age, buffering is just not acceptable anymore. It's not, you don't expect that when you watch stream, and you're not going to stay on a platform very long if that happens. So what it really is they want to see a hybrid model where basically you try first to distribute video via the peer-to-peer network because that's more cost efficient for you. But if a user is not able to find that video from your neighbor nearby, within about 100 milliseconds, it will automatically switch back to the centralized CDN behind it. So attempt to use Theta, but the backup is not drop the stream. The backup is go back to using the CDN. And that's just table stakes to work with any major platform because they love the idea of saving money on CDN and of getting users excited with crypto rewards. They absolutely, it's a non-starter for them. So I think the difference with us with Theta is we embrace that and realize we're not trying to get you to throw out your whole existing infrastructure. We're trying to augment and improve it, but we're definitely not going to have an experience for users where like some that you've seen on some of these fully decentralized protocols where it's really tough to even watch a video sometimes.
Yeah. So in recent months, there's been quite a lot of discourse around free speech and censorship, and with whom, if anyone, the responsibility should lie for content moderation to ensure things like misinformation and fake news don't proliferate. And we've seen a lot of news around that kind of topic. So in light of recent censorship scandals within big tech, what is Theta's ethos on censoring content that they don't agree with?
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting question. There's a lot of nuance to that, and we've been doing a lot of thinking about that. And I think what it really comes down to is in which way Theta is being used, because there's a few different ways. We've already talked about how it is. So I guess I can quickly run through those. On Theta TV, it's our own first-party platform, and we pick the streamers to go on. We control contents on it. So at least as a U.S. company, we have full liability for what's on there if there's illegal content or anything else. So on Theta TV, we do moderate content. If Theta is being used by another video platform, we have zero say in what's on there, and we don't attempt to censor at all. In the same way that Google is not censoring your emails, or Akamai CDN on the back end is not policing what's on YouTube. We're just the infrastructure, the pipes, if you will. Right. So we're not looking to step into the role of other video platform. Now we do. I mentioned our Edge node earlier. The 10,000 Edge nodes we have running by our community users does have a feature now that actually has fully decentralized streaming, meaning it is directly peer-to-peer between users, and it never touches a server owned by Theta Labs or anything. And there's no censorship on that either. And that's a little trickier because it is a program we put out, and someone could stream literally anything on it.
Yeah.
But that said, we are pretty confident that the legal history points to that. If we're just creating software, but we are not doing any of the streaming, we're not hosting, we're not delivering any of the video, it never touches anything to do with us. I think there is a legal precedent that that's not something that we should be getting involved in. That's between two users sharing video between each other.
Right.
Of course, we are a U.S. company, and we do have to follow all the laws. So if something changes on that front, it's a situation we have to keep watching. But we're certainly not looking to do any more censorship than we're required to by law.
Right. Well, and I think we've seen that from regulators, come up in a variety of different ways. And it seems to be the general consensus today still that you can't really regulate code, right? And it seems like this falls into that bucket. But I'm old enough to remember early file sharing. So, platforms like Napster. So for all the kids out there, it was one of the early ones. And there were a number of copyright issues that came into play, which really changed the way music sharing has monetized and the way artists get paid for content development. So how does Theta foresee handling issues like this, given its decentralized nature?
Yeah, I think it's a issue that we've been able to sidestep to some extent because we focused on live streaming first. So just it's not as common a forum for someone to be stealing content or pushing copywritten content. But you still could be live streaming a new movie that was pirated, or we have started supporting static file delivery and VOD content. So it is something that'll come up more and more. And I think that would certainly on our platform on Theta TV, where we are monitoring it, that falls under our responsibility that we can't have illegal content on it. Otherwise, we'll very quickly get a cease and desist letter.
Right.
If you're using the fully decentralized Edge node, that is trickier because as constructed right now, we don't have a way of stopping that content because we don't even know it's being streamed until someone actually points it out. But again, it's just code and the servers don't run through us. Now, we would certainly not like it to become the go-to tool that people are sending pirated content on, but it's a tough question because we don't want to overstep and start just fully censoring it. Otherwise, there's no point in having the centralized protocol to begin with.
Well, what about an instance? So maybe Napster is not a great like for like analogy, but what if it's something like the Super Bowl, for example, that sells broadcast rights to live streaming to particular entities? So, for example, it's broadcast in the U.S., shown on NBC. They own the rights to televise. It's resold to Sky in the UK, and that's where you watch it. But somehow you're able to hijack that and show it on different channels and different jurisdictions that don't have licenses. Something like that be possible?
Yeah, certainly anyone can broadcast whatever they want. And I think the real question is, from a legal standpoint, like we referred to earlier, I don't think there's any legal liability any more than if you sent illegal content via Gmail. It's not Google's fault per se, or they can't be held liable for it. But still, I think from beyond just legal liability, I don't know if from a branding perspective and what the vision we're trying to sell to enterprises of what Theta is capable of, if that's what we want to be known for. In the same way that, platforms that maybe didn't necessarily start out intending for this, but for whatever reason, they were used as places that people were plotting, like the election interference in the US, it maybe generates some bad headlines, even though it's not the fault of that platform. But is it best for Theta Project? That's a more difficult question than whether we're actually legally liable for it. So we do think seriously about that because it means the future of Theta. Yeah,
indeed. So let's go into scaling. What is the future? So according to a survey by Interactive Advertising Bureau, 47% of live streaming viewers worldwide are streaming more live video compared with a year ago. So for example, China's live streaming industry has more than 425 million users. It's extraordinary. So there are huge barriers in the content market that are difficult to scale easily by country, continent, culture, etc. How does Theta plan to scale across global markets such as the US, for example, or Europe, for example?
Yeah, so from a technical perspective, that's what we our focus is on, driving more users running these edge nodes around the world. And it's simpler from a technical perspective, but the user content perspective, that's much more difficult because every region has has their own content, and of course there's some cross-border interest, but there's popular local content everywhere, and it's very difficult to impossible for us as one team in California to be able to manage all that, to understand what's going to be liked in a given region. So at Stated TV, we do make some forays into that. We do have some Korean content that has become really popular. We have a Latin American event coming up pretty soon. But generally speaking, we think of the strategy more as partnering with these different platforms that are already experts in what's the popular local content, and let them handle that and just be the infrastructure behind it. We think that part is actually important to the technical side too, because if you have a platform that's big in Indonesia, say, and they integrate Theta in their backend and start explain to their users how they can earn crypto for sharing streams nearby, that indirectly starts driving them to run their own edge nodes. And so the net benefit is, even though we didn't do anything to specialize in Indonesian content, now maybe we have a more robust peer-to-peer network in that area because that platform onboarded new users to Theta Network. So they are related, and we do think that it's important to bring on that content from different regions, but we recognize that we can't do it ourselves. So we have to basically use these partner networks or partner platforms to help us build out that network.
Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about partnerships in a minute. Before we do that, we have a few more questions around scalability in the network. So how will 5G technology affect the development of Theta Video Content Platform? What is Theta's approach to address scalability to meet the needs of 5G technology?
Yeah, we're very excited for 5G to be more common because most of us as consumers, we know what 5G is going to bring to us. Its download speeds are going to be incredible. So much easier to stream very high definition video, even if you're in a place with limited service, you can still watch any content you want. You can download any file as fast as you want, and so on. But 5G also has, it will also offer upload speeds that high. And not only do most of us not have a good reason to use that, you just don't upload nearly as much as you download. We've spoken to many telecoms that themselves don't know what to do with that. And it's actually users being able to upload that much data that quickly is like a new tool they have that they don't know how to use yet or how to monetize yet, or basically what do we do with this cool tech, new tech we have. And so we think Theta can actually fill that gap for them, where if users are now, where previously you were only downloading to your phone, watching movies on the subway or something like that, but you weren't moving a lot of data out. Now you have something to do that with. Someone else is watching the same video on the metro next to you, so you're relaying that to them. And so you actually have a reason to use these blazing fast upload speeds for once. And so I haven't really heard of another killer app for 5G upload speeds, and we think Theta can fill that gap and basically getting in place to as many devices as we can prior to 5G really becoming commonplace throughout the world. We think is going to be key to being basically the first one in the race there, the first real use case for that 5G speed.
Awesome. So how can Theta TV how can Theta help TV and live stream improve global accessibility for countries with poor internet access or poor internet connections, or countries that are perhaps subject to censorship?
Yeah, I think in both cases it can be beneficial, but in a little different way. So as far as the poor internet, it can really be helpful in places where there's intermittent internet, where it's not necessarily so bad, but it's patchy or it's unreliable, because if you have one user that is able to pull a given video segment, they can share it with everyone else nearby. So think of it as if my connection is a little patchy and I'm getting bits and pieces of the video stream, but there's 10 of us, and in aggregate, we're getting all of the video segments necessary in a period of time. We can basically mix and match together, and collectively we have a stronger feed of a given video. So it can help paper over some of those issues if you have enough people that are all kind of boosting the network signal for everyone. On the censorship side, that's a little, yeah, tongue twister. That's a little different, but I think this is actually a case where I think the edge node and a fully decentralized stream that we don't control becomes really interesting, and one that I'm certainly a lot happier people using than using it to pirate someone else's copywritten content. Is places where I haven't seen this necessarily in practice, but certainly it could happen today, where if there's a government that starts cracking down on free speech or users using social media, which a lot of times in countries is how they communicate against government restrictions, then they could use something like the edge node streaming to just share that among local people in the area. And even more so, it's a great use case because it's probably something that's the people you want to communicate are in your city. So it makes even more sense that this is a video stream that is going to be relayed locally between your peers, and you'll definitely have the concurrent viewership you need to make it to work on a peer-to-peer network. So yeah, I haven't actually seen that in practice yet, and it's not necessarily a biz dev focus for us to seek out global conflicts for them to use edge node in. But that said, if you can, but that said, I'd be happy to see that if there's people that don't have free speech that can then use this as a way to get around that. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, I completely agree. All right, so a member of the community has commented the blockchain industry has a number of projects that claim to solve existing problems in video streaming and IoT. As the head of strategy at Theta, in your opinion, what will Theta need to do to promote its brand and attract users?
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of folks that have, while they're not necessarily in video delivery streaming, they're hooked onto what I think is the same idea, which is there's billions of devices out there now that are often sitting unused, and just like a lot of other, I guess broadly speaking, you call them sharing economy plays, where Airbnb is there's houses sitting unused, you monetize them. If there's Uber originally, if there's cars sitting unused, you monetize them. You can do that with any device. I think a lot of these plays are kind of similar in theme in that. And I think the big difference that sets us apart is that we're thinking of it more from an enterprise software standpoint, where we're trying to work directly with the companies to see what works for them, rather than building something that's only focused on being decentralized from day one, but isn't necessarily building a product that's exactly what these enterprises want. And I wouldn't say either's better than the other. They're just kind of solving different problems. Like there's, in the same way that our product suite has the Theta SDK for enterprises, that's a hybrid model, and we also have the fully decentralized edge node. It's two different products for two different use cases. And I think there's a lot of folks doing the fully decentralized like we are in part, but not as many that are actually thinking along the lines of let's go out and talk to enterprises and build what they want, and it's going to bring the benefits of decentralization to them. But we're not necessarily zealots about that. If an enterprise says, well, this isn't going to work for our business model because if it's fully decentralized, this breaks some regulation that we're subject to, we're still willing to work with them to bring some form of decentralization and blockchain adoption to those enterprises too.
Yeah, indeed. So one of the ways it seems that, you referenced earlier, getting on as many devices as possible. And it seems like one of the ways that adoption might be being evidenced is through the Theta integration into Samsung smart TVs, which was funded by the Sony Innovation Fund. So how does that play into, mass adoption, and how far away are we from that today?
Yeah, that's something we demoed a while back in late 2019 at Samsung's conference. We showed basically how on a Samsung smart TV, it can fit right into relaying with phones and other computers. And kind of fits that theme that we're talking about, where every device is just another potential node in the network, regardless of what type of device it is. We're hoping, obviously, to get in at the hardware level on something like a Samsung TV, because what you're really doing is just taking the shortcut to mass adoption there, where without even knowing it, people are now using a decentralized protocol and getting the benefits out of it because it sort of piggybacks onto existing technology they're already familiar with.
Sure.
Because the average person, the average consumer, they can't tell you much about blockchain or peer-to-peer networks and how they work, but they certainly know how to buy a fancy new TV. And if it's built into that, then all the better. That's proved to be a pretty high barrier. We found out with Samsung and others that it's not something they just put into tens of millions of TVs without, really understanding it. And so it's been a longer process than we had hoped, but we are still working on that, and think that could be one of the easy ways in, basically, as opposed to having to educate millions and millions of users about what a blockchain protocol is to begin with and why you should use it. We take that angle as well, but that's a longer path to mass adoption, and it might take many more years of people understanding blockchain and getting comfortable with the technology to go that route.
Sure. So what do you believe that Theta's strongest advantage is that will enable you to become the market leader in this space? And conversely, what's your greatest weakness, and how do you plan to overcome that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think those are actually kind of related, because I do think our biggest strength is related to what we talked about, how we differentiate earlier. We focus on about how our technology works with enterprises, and I'm sure we're willing to be flexible in that, rather than just speak to the crypto side of things and not be concerned at all with what we'll actually see adoption in the market. But conversely, I think we haven't done a good enough job of bridging the gap between that, because I think sometimes it feels like we understand what will play at the enterprise, what their pain points are and how we can solve those potentially. We understand what is important to the crypto side and the people actually running these nodes, who are also critical, because without them, the peer-to-peer network, the Theta blockchain, don't exist. We haven't done a good enough job of figuring out how to marry those two and to make them work together, because in a lot of times what benefits each side and what they want the Theta network to become are two different things. And it is sort of our job to understand, how do we take the 10,000 nodes and growing that want to contribute to this network, and how do we take the enterprises that want to see the benefits of this and make them work together? They don't have the same wants and needs. And sometimes when we're considering new protocol developments, or how Theta is going to evolve going forward, they very strongly disagree with how that should look. And, I think both sides have been relatively happy with how Theta is developed, and the community has grown really strong. But I still don't think we fully solved what the protocol should look like going forward, that's going to make both your global 100 enterprises and a decentralized network of blockchain enthusiasts happy. It's got to be a marriage of the two.
Right. So that shared incentivization for your stakeholders is critical, obviously, when you're looking at your roadmap going forward, and what you're going to develop for whom. So understanding that, what are the major roadblocks that you see that could impact the overall growth of Theta? Could it be a restrictive regulatory policy that maybe is outside of your control? Is it that shared incentivization? What are those things that you are up at night?
Yeah, definitely the regulatory side, because I think, at least in the US, the fact that the US regulators haven't really come out and given clear guidelines about what they think about crypto, how they plan on regulating it going forward, that's had sort of a chilling effect on enterprise adoption, in at least in a lot of pieces of it. I'm happy that they haven't, they've shown some promise, and that they're definitely not anti-crypto. I wouldn't say they want to prevent money laundering and things, but they haven't come out and banned crypto. But the fact that they haven't said anything really full force behind it means a lot of companies are still taking a wait and see attitude, or they want to dip a toe into it and keep their teams understanding blockchain and on the cutting edge of it. So they're educating themselves, but they seem to hesitate a lot from really diving in and adopting it because there's just too many questions for them. And a legal department of a major company is not incentivized to take risks. They're going to say, we'll just hold off for now. And that's something that I think will only take with time. And it does seem like in 2021, it's starting to turn the corner back to where enterprises are starting to look at crypto positively again. They certainly did in 2017. And for a few years, I'm not sure why the Bitcoin price affected their thinking, but for a few years, it was very it was not in vogue in enterprises, I think, to be moving into blockchain adoption. Now it feels like the pendulum's swinging the other way again. And the same ones are coming back and saying, okay, we formed a new blockchain team. We're really interested in getting involved again. What can we do? So we're hoping that just with the passage of time and as crypto gets more and more adopted, you see more household names in finance saying they're buying Bitcoin, and pension funds and insurance funds. I think all these little things add up to those attitudes changing slower than we had hoped, but they are changing, and you're seeing more and more sort of mainstream non-crypto folks feel like it's okay now to be looking into blockchain adoption, and they kind of have cover when they see other big names they recognize doing the same.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, the power of the network effect really increases the value of goods and services as the number of people or participants using that service increases, right? So the internet is a perfect example of that. Initially, it was just researchers and, the military. And so it was really of little value to anyone else because there were so few users. So partnerships would be a really excellent way to expand and grow the network, which, is going to be what allows that mainstreaming. And I think the enterprise play absolutely is a differentiator versus going kind of one by one to create a coalition of the willing. So you mentioned some of your partners earlier, like Google, Binance, and Blockchain Ventures. How are your partners participating with you in the Theta Network?
Yeah, it's each is kind of different in that. Blockchain Ventures is an investment fund that's made several investments in the company and runs one of our validator nodes. Think of them more as a technology partner because they are in, if you're obviously familiar, they won one of the major blockchain wallets and explorers. They're very much on the infrastructure technology side of it. Google also runs a validator node, but we use them more for to integrate in ways to scale the network, whether it's making it easier for users to launch nodes or some other work we're doing with them that I'm speaking about at a Google conference coming up, where they're sort of like a way to accelerate how our network works without having to build it out piece by piece.
Right.
Others like Binance, you're familiar with. They're of course an exchange partner, and then the real core of it is the platforms that we are looking to use Theta for the core use case, and that's video delivery. So there's some work done with Samsung on their Samsung VR platform that they had running for a few years. There's some smaller platforms like Game Talk in Korea. But that's really, I think, what our focus needs to be in 2021 is starting to build out a network that's strong enough to actually be useful to these video platforms. Now we just need to work on customer acquisition on that front and building from these small startups that we have using Theta and their infrastructure into getting into larger and larger platforms and establishing those proof points so that when you're going to the household name video platforms, you can say this is already in use on 10 or 15 different sites. So you don't need to take a chance with this bigger one. Here's the partner sites that are using it. Don't take our word for it. Go see it in action. And that's how I think we build up to being able to have Theta used on the very largest platforms.
Okay. So how else are you getting the word out? I know you're going to be taking part in the Blockdown conference. What
Mhm.
will you be talking about there, and what attracted you to that particular venue?
Yeah, so we worked with Blockdown several times in the past before, and know the folks over at EAK very well. We work with them, EAK, who puts on the Blockdown conference.
Mhm.
So we're excited about some actually a collaboration we're doing for a conference involving NFTs that are being built on Theta. So that yeah, they're really innovative in how they think of these things. They're not just a video production company that's just doing things by the book. They're pretty crypto native themselves, and so they're thinking of a lot of ways uh, to integrate innovative things like NFTs and other pieces of crypto into the conference itself. Um, I don't want to. I'm not sure how much they revealed yet, so I don't want to go too off and reveal any big surprises for them. But yeah, so as to say, we like working with them because they definitely are in it for crypto and do video conferences as a way of spreading that. They're not just a video conference provider that happens to be in crypto. They're crypto native.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have a few technical questions from the community. So I've kind of saved those to the last, bit of a kind of technical rundown. So to what extent is the Theta blockchain immutable?
Yeah, the Theta blockchain itself is completely immutable. There's no way to reverse transactions. We have no centralized control, no backdoor. That's as Theta Labs, I should say. We'd have no centralized control of it. It's a double-edged sword. That being completely immutable means, like any other, like most cryptos are like a Bitcoin transaction, where if it's by mistake or by it's your private info is compromised, there is literally no way for that to be resolved or to be reversed, which is unfortunate a lot of times because crypto scams don't. It feels like we're not making any progress there. The industry just has just as many scams and those kind of things going on as ever. But unfortunately, it's a trade-off you have to make because while it would be nice to help out these users in these cases, and we really feel for them when something goes wrong, if it's not immutable, there's no point in doing this to begin with. If it's just a bank account where I can go in and get your money, we can do this in simpler ways than launching a decentralized blockchain. So it's the way it has to be.
Okay. What will be the most noticeable change to the network after the implementation of smart contracts?
Yeah, this is something I'm really excited about because we're trying to make it a focus of our second Theta hackathon that we just launched last month. That's going to run through April. And now that smart contracts are enabled, there's of course some there's some obvious things that can be ported over from other platforms, since the Theta virtual machine is EVM compatible with Ethereum's virtual machine. So, for example, there's a Theta decentralized exchange in the works, which is coming out very shortly. But I'm also really excited about beyond just porting over things from other blockchains, people starting to create smart contracts that really help streamers in the video use case we're talking about. So, like, we've had some streamers talk to us about if they can find ways to create a smart contract that's like a pool for streamer earnings, where if T-Field Aaron is donated to them, they can almost form like a collective or like a co-op where there's some variability in their earnings day to day or month to month. But if they pool all of them together and they all get a share, then they're all working together instead of competing with other streamers on the platform. And then it can get more complex from there. You could set up different ways where you can invest in that streaming pool and then earn based on how much TV they're earning from donations, and really interesting stuff, almost like building a DAO for streamers just via smart contracts on top of Theta. That one's a little nascent and it still hasn't been built out yet, but that's the kind of things I'm starting to see emerge. And I think that's really exciting to see something that to my knowledge has never been built before. And I'd like to see Theta be the pioneer there.
Yeah, that sounds cool. So you mentioned this. So for Theta newbies, what are the requirements for joining the Theta Hackathon?
Yeah, there's not any real hard set requirements. You know, we're open to pretty much anything they can build that's related to Theta. So a few things I jotted down in the notes for it is obviously video platforms integrating with Theta. If you have a startup platform, any new dApps or smart contract tools you want to build on it, even just analytical things like wallets, explorers that want to be built on it.
Mhm.
Yeah, it, we do require that the code is on GitHub and be open source. Although if it's something that's a strong contribution to Theta ecosystem and is not open source, we can consider that as well. But we prefer that it be open source so that other users, either in the hackathon or just after the hackathon, have something new they could build on, and just more things that the ecosystem can build upon. But yeah, other than that, there's no, it's open to everyone, no purchase required. So definitely check out our Theta Twitter if you haven't seen it, or go to DevPost and you can find instructions on how to join the hackathon.
Awesome. Okay, can you tell us a little bit about the latest achievements that your team is making in VR and AR development, and what are the next important steps after launching the main chain?
Yeah, the VR is very interesting because many folks don't know that Theta TV actually got started in the VR space like in 2016, 2017, and actually holds 4 patents in VR rendering of in-game environments. So basically, our team would go to the largest esports events like IEM in Katowice in Poland, and would be on hand and actually take in-game data from, say, League of Legends or Counter-Strike or something like that, and then render the game in 360 VR, and then in real time spit that out to anyone in the arena with a VR headset that wanted to watch in the game and be able to change camera angles around the player. Basically, it's something that's not built into the game, but we created it on the fly for VR users to jump into that world. As it turns out, unfortunately, in 2017, just not enough people own VR headsets, that it was a very cool idea, but the market just wasn't there.
We're in VR again now, so.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, if you've used it recently, even just the quality of the experience in like the new Oculus versus the ones in 2017, it's much more enjoyable as a user. Yeah. And you know, you can actually walk around without 50 pounds on your head distracting you. So yeah, we think we basically we recognize that we had to kind of put it on ice for a few years because we built this tech and had it patented and there was nothing to do with it at the time. But it feels like now finally the technologies and the consumer adoption is catching up to it. And right at a time where with 5G around the corner, it'll be much easier for you to stream VR, even with a passable internet connection. So we think finally all the pieces may be coming together, that it'll become viable to stream that. And of course, when we can feature that on Theta TV again, then that'll all be able to be relayed over Theta Network. So it feels like maybe we're a little bit early in 2017 to do that, but now with all that knowledge we had built up and the technology we created for that, perhaps we can put that to use now. Yeah,
awesome. That would be really exciting. So you mentioned DeFi earlier, and DeFi has been one of the hottest topics in the blockchain space right now. What's your personal opinion about DeFi, and what's Theta's approach towards DeFi?
Yeah, so personally, I think it's wonderful as a crypto user myself, because even just besides the possibilities of it, I found plenty of uses just for my own personal use, whether it's borrowing against crypto because you don't want to sell it for some reason, or wanting to have access to something without using a centralized exchange. So, I mean, personally, I think it's wonderful. And there's obviously a lot more than just crypto native folks like myself using it. If it can be generalized to the same way that you can use Aave to trade 24 hours a day and with guaranteed custody, if you could do that with stocks, that'd be revolutionary. And I don't want to get too into this, the whole GameStop controversy of the last week, but there's a lot of accusations that some of the problems are coming because people are basically trading stocks that don't exist or that have been duplicated because it's moved around so many times that no one actually knows the true number of stocks out there, shares out there, or who owns them. And that's something that's easily could be solved by having the same kind of infrastructure you use in DeFi, where everything is everything can be tracked on chain, and custody is guaranteed at the protocol level. So yeah, I mean, I think you see examples like that all the time, where if it was just moved over to the DeFi infrastructure we're using, it would be a better way of doing things. So at Theta, it's obviously not the core of what we're doing, but we don't see DeFi as like something where you're launching a DeFi blockchain or something like that. It's something that's going to seep into everything you're using in crypto. Anytime where if there's Theta tokens used by streamers or there's NFTs created, someone's always going to want a way to trade those in a decentralized way. Someone's always going to want a way to, if they have value, to borrow against them or to use them as collateral in other protocols. So it's really more of just a thing that's going to, I think, be part of all on-chain interactions eventually.
Brilliant. Well, we are coming up to the top of the hour, Wes. It's been fantastic to spend this time with you and learn more about Theta. If our viewers want to really dig into the weeds or get more involved, how do they get in touch with you and where do they get information?
Yeah, definitely check out our website at thetatoken.org or follow us on Twitter at Theta_network. And also our Medium blog is a great place for more longer form pieces and to really dive in and learn more about Theta.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And thanks again to our audience for joining us today. If your question was asked during the AMA, then you may have won a share of the Theta prize pool. And if you have, then your prize will be deposited into your app wallet within 14 days. You can follow Wes on Twitter at Wes_Levitt. And you can follow Theta at Theta_network. To stay informed about upcoming events and updates from us, follow us on Twitter at Crypto.com and our official Telegram channels as well. And please subscribe to this YouTube channel where you'll be able to watch the replay of this awesome discussion as soon as we're finished. Or you can explore previous AMAs and stay in touch to hear about future awesome projects. So again, thanks, Wes, very much. And to the Crypto.com and Theta communities, see you again next time.
Great. Thanks, Tina. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.